2025 was a year of highs and lows. I lost my job during the mass layoffs in the US, but I also attended my first Cannes Film Festival as press. We found out that the theatrical experience as we know it might be completely doomed, but we also had such special movie events like Sinners breaking records and a new Avatar film. Neja 2 made $2.2 billion. Overall, I'd say it was a great year. I saw around 150 movies, including festivals, and my biggest struggle making this list was that my top 4 movies I'm like in love with and super enthusiastic about, and then I have this giant mass of movies that I gave like 4 stars. I really enjoyed them, and I kind of just had to pick in order. If you followed me long enough, you know that I kind of loathe making ranked lists, but I do it for you guys. Just know that a lot of this could be shifted around, and I'll probably regret it once I post it, but it's fine. A couple notes before we start. I wanted to shout out Bahubali the Epic and Kill Bill the Whole Bloody Affair, 2 instances of a part 1 and part 2 being edited together as one experience. They were both epic and amazing. I just didn't include them as 2025 releases because they're sort of unconventional. There are also some films that I shouted out in my Cannes video that would absolutely be on this list, most notably Pillion, The Sound of Falling, and The Chronology of Water, but I'm gonna save them for next year since they haven't had a wide release yet. And just shout out to all the movies that almost made it here. Materialists, I loved. I did a video on that. The Secret Agent really deserves a rewatch from me. Splitsville, I loved Roofman. The Perfect Neighbor was a great documentary. The list goes on, but these are the movies that I felt most excited about or that I kept thinking about throughout the year. Of course, as always, let me know what your favorites of 2025 were. If you disagree with my picks or think I'm missing something, I'd love to hear why. That's the beauty of film, but time codes will be below. Let's just get this over with. At number 20, we have Die My Love. I know this was a tough one for a lot of people. I saw it back at Cannes and was pumped. I love Lynn Ramsey, especially for You Were Never Really Here, but Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson are equally big selling points, and it delivers as a vehicle for 2 completely unhinged performances. But the way it's constructed also really brings you into Jennifer Lawrence's character as this woman who feels like she's losing herself in motherhood and is almost destroying herself just to have some impact on the world around her and prove that she still exists. It's an adaptation, and I haven't read the book, but I feel like you can feel that some elements don't quite gel as much, and I think it was probably about 15 minutes too long, at least when the edit that I saw of it at Cannes. Sometimes they tweak it a little bit afterwards, but I loved it a lot. We can add it to the list of movies that are huge parenthood deterrents. At number 19, I have Train Dreams, one that I think will be high on a lot of people's lists. When I saw this at TIFF, throughout the runtime, I was a little unsure of how honestly sappy and platitudinous it was, but by the time the final moments hit, I was crying more than I have cried at a movie all year. I rewatched it for my podcast, and it all worked a lot better for me. I think that what's so beautiful about this film is that it's about perspective. There are a couple of key scenes where the main character, Robert, who's played by a fantastic Joel Edgerton, is up high at a different vantage point over nature especially, and it really makes you feel that notion of zooming out and understanding and making peace with our place in everything, especially in his case during a time of such rapid change in American history. But we've all been through shit and just want to make sense of everything, and that's what makes it so cathartic. At number 18, I have Sorry Baby. I don't think a lot of what's in this film is necessarily new, but it's the kind of story that needs to be told over and over, and it's always nice when there's a drama that reapproaches those things in a way that feels fresh and just beautifully told. I love how this film is specifically focused on feeling stuck in life after a traumatic event and watching everyone else move on. It's a really heartbreaking and effective, and Ava Victor is absolutely phenomenal, both as a director and the lead here. I'm really glad that they're getting some awards recognition this season. It's great, but it's a heavy watch, so you have been warned. At number 17, I have The Shrouds. I walked out of The Shrouds really unsure of how I felt about it. It's got a really odd cadence and uncomfortable vibe, but unsurprisingly for a David Cronenberg film, it really burrowed into my brain. Like, there have been many moments this year where I've made a connection between grief and conspiracy and been reminded of this film. It was also, I think, one of the most cutting depictions of AI from last year and how it can encroach on the most sacred parts of our lives. The Crone Man still got it. At 16, I have If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which is a very interesting companion piece to Die My Love. On the surface, they're both about the darker sides of motherhood and how it affects your sense of self, but while Die My Love is about postpartum and trying to maintain one's identity, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick Kick You is about a mother, played by Rose Byrne, who also has a very sick daughter, and she feels completely helpless and overwhelmed by the demands of that role. She's living through this surreal nightmare scenario that feels more like a horror movie than anything, and, you know, it's in the title, that tight anxiety of wanting to change your circumstances, but feeling powerless to. So motherhood is 0-2 on this list so far. My number 15 is Highest to Lowest, the latest Spike Lee and Denzel Washington collab that is a remake of the masterpiece that is Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, a very different film than this one. This is one that I know a lot of people will vehemently disagree with, but I've seen it twice, and both times I was like a kid in a candy store. Like, I unironically think that this movie has one of the greatest formal transitions since Dorothy opened the door in The Wizard of Oz. Spike Lee is operating on such a deranged level of formal and narrative meta-commentary that I couldn't help but just be totally mesmerized by like every decision that was made. And I'm not sure I really care whether it's genius or late-stage senility, the effect is the same. And it's got some big issues, don't get me wrong. There's a contrast between the more soapy, like high-class spaces and the streets of New York that if you aren't able to fully get on board with the way it's executed, you're gonna probably have a tough time. But to me, it was all greater than the sum of its parts. It played way better for me on a second watch, and I still just feel so excited about it. At number 14, I have Happy End. This is one that slowly crept up this list as I was making it. It's about a group of high school students living in near future Tokyo, and when they pull a prank on their principal, a dystopian surveillance system is installed at their school. So instead of your typical high school movie where they're only worried about college and what the future holds and all of that, there's also the looming threat of techno-fascism. There are always earthquakes happening. The juxtaposition between the coming of age tropes and the more insidious parts of modern life creates something really powerful, and it's just incredibly beautiful. The score, the way that the city is used around them, I loved it. I really think that more people should watch this movie. Coming in at number 13 is The Mastermind, infamously shown as the AMC secret screening to a bunch of people who apparently weren't pleased to get a slow anti-heist movie with some nice jazz music and Josh O'Connor playing a 70s sleazeball. If you hear all that and think sign me up, you will probably love it. This was my final 2025 watch before making this list, and I was a little unsure if I'd like it because it was only my second Kelly Reichardt film, the first being Showing Up, which I also really loved, but I was not disappointed. It's very worth checking out, if not just to expand your Josh O'Connor catalog. At number 12, we're making progress. I have the mandatory Steven Soderbergh inclusion, Black Bag. It feels like this movie came out a decade ago. It was a March release, and I actually saw 3 new Steven Soderbergh films in 2025, Black Bag, Presence, and The Christophers, which Neon picked up after TIFF, but Black Bag was easily the best. There's just something about a slick, sexy spy whodunit. It was one of the most romantic films of the year, and I loved the cinematography, which Soderbergh did himself with the glowy lights. If I was president, every year would have at least 2 new Soderbergh movies. He's a very important part of the ecosystem. Number 11 is Avatar: Fire and Ash. I just did a very long video about this one, my longest review ever on here actually, because it is just a behemoth of a film with a lot going on, in some ways to its detriment. But James Cameron is James Cameron. The guy knows how to get you invested. And even if this is maybe the messiest of all the Avatar films, and it had a lot going on with reshoots, and they weren't sure whether it would be the last Avatar movie, there's so many things I love about the direction the story went. I love that it is the darkest Avatar film yet, and I mean, I can't help it. They're just completely transporting magical theatrical experiences. We are officially at the top 10. Maybe people skipped here because they don't care about all 20 movies. But at number 10, I have The Testament of Anne Lee. This was co-written by Mona Fastfold and Brady Corbet, who did The Brutalist together, but this time Mona Fastfold was directing. And it is sort of a musical biopic about Anne Lee, who is the founder of the Shaker movement. And I don't want to say too much about her because it's just so exciting to discover the story while you watch the film. But Amanda Seyfried has had some great bits in the press, and it's obviously all campaigning. I think her performance is phenomenal in this. But when she talks about the power of Anne Lee's story and what it meant to her to play the role, you really believe her, and it shows in the film too. I remember having a bit of a pacing issue in the latter half and feeling like at times it was just delivering information, but just to behold like this epic story and see the way that the music is incorporated, it's easily one of the most singular films that I saw last year, and Mona Fastful did an incredible job bringing the story to life. Coming in at number 9 is Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. I really just think this film is so great. Like, it's nice when this sort of populist entertainment is this thoughtful, and it's nice that an original series playing with classic whodunit tropes is so popular. I did a full video breaking this one down and what I loved about it. I hope we get a few more of these from Rian Johnson, and Daniel Craig and Josh O'Connor is easily one of the best pairings of the year. At number 8, I have Caught by the Tides. If you don't know the sort of deal with this film, it's basically a project where the director, Zhazenka, used footage from his previous films that have gone back 23 years, as well as some new footage, and edited them all together to create a new narrative where we can observe how China has changed, how people have changed. It goes all the way up to the COVID era, and by casting his longtime collaborators, Lee Zubin and his wife Zhao Tao, we have consistent characters who are actually aging through the footage and sort of trying to find each other amidst the shifting culture and environment. That might all sound like a lot, especially if you haven't seen any other Zhazenka films, but I hadn't, and I still gave it a go, and while I'm sure having more familiarity with his filmography adds something to the experience, I didn't feel lost or disconnected from it. It's a really beautiful and special project. I cried. I think it's absolutely worth checking out. At number 7, I have Marty Supreme, a film that I honestly think is being pretty widely misunderstood, at least when I look on TikTok and what's going on over there, for reasons that are far too complicated to get into here, but we did a full podcast episode on it that I will link. It was one of my favorite conversations that we had this year. Marty Mauser is a challenging character. He's very unlikable, but represents something beyond the literal, something very cosmic about growing up and taking responsibility for ourselves and how we can actually accept what's real and valuable in a hyper-capitalist society that is constantly telling us that we need more and we need to be more. Marty's identity as a Jewish American kid in the wake of World War II plays a really fascinating part in the whole story. Josh Safdie clearly has really big feelings about becoming a father since Uncut Gems, and that whole part of it is really interesting too. I think it is the least perfectly constructed of this trio of Uncut Gems, Good Time, and now this, but it definitely has the most on its mind and really does feel like this epic American movie, and I just loved it a lot. Number 6 is It Was Just an Accident. This was my first Jafar Panahi film, and if you don't know, he has a really legendary career of making films that have challenged the Iranian government, sometimes to the point of landing him in jail. He's made films in jail. He's just a really brave and important artist, and I was really wowed by It Was Just an Accident. Not only is the craft amazing, but the premise, which is that these people who had previously been held and tortured by the government, they think that they've captured one of their tormentors, but they're not 100% sure. It's a really powerful moral pickle that brings about all sorts of questions related to justice and conscience and how those goalposts can be shifted. It has easily one of, if not the best ending of the year. I really enjoyed this one. We are officially in the top 5. Starting it off is Sentimental Value, one that I actually really owe a rewatch. I saw it all the way back at Cannes and discussed it in that video, but it's really stuck around in my head. Like, there's something here for anyone to be moved by, whether it's family or strained relationships or sisterhood or memory or creating art. It hits in that same way that people loved Joachim Trier for in The Worst Person in the World, but the metatextual elements of this one I think really elevate it into something really special. The Cannes audience loved it, I will tell you that much. That was maybe the most electric night of the festival for me, and it was just a really fun experience to have everyone just love the film equally. My number 4 is No Other Choice. This is Park Chan-wook's follow-up to Decision to Leave, but it's a very different movie, maybe his funniest movie, but also very bleak for the time. It's about a man who loses his job and, while trying to get another one in a bad market, takes some violent measures to eliminate his competition. There are a lot of people who think this is lesser Park Chan-wook, and I am just not on the same page. I thought it was a laugh riot. I cried. Lee Byung-hun is phenomenal in it. There's a scene with an oven mitt that I thought was one of the best of the year. It has some of the greatest cinematography of the year. What's not to like? Coming in at number 3 is Sinners. Sweet, sweet Sinners. Thank God for Sinners. This was one of the earliest releases of the whole list, and I think it's held up through the entire year. I will never forget how it felt seeing the barn burner sequence for the first time in theaters. The whole thing is such a moving exploration of culture and race and identity while having fun with its roots in genre filmmaking. Michael B. Jordan gave one of the best performances of the year, but it's chock full of great performances. I mean, the score, we did a big podcast episode breaking this one down that I'll link below, but Ryan Coogler really is the best. I'm just so excited to keep following his career. My number 2 is very special to me. Some of you will agree, some of you will be confused, but it is 28 years later. I loved this movie. I have seen it 3 times. I did a full-length video on it. It's easily one of the most exciting sequels or franchise installments that we've gotten in a long time, both because of where Alex Garland and Danny Boyle chose to take the themes of the series, but also how they kept up the 28 Days Later legacy of playing with digital filmmaking in incredible ways, thanks to Anthony Dodd Mantle as well. It is some of my favorite cinematography of the year. Unfortunately, it's in the kind of movie that doesn't get awards recognition very often, but lucky us, The Bone Temple is coming out this coming week, and I'm just so excited to see how they continue this story. But my number 1 always was, from the second I saw it, but we could have seen it coming before that because I'm predictable, One Battle After Another. Who is surprised? No one. Paul Thomas Anderson has been one of my favorite filmmakers for a long, long time, but this film was particularly exciting because it was his most expensive film to date, but also one of his only contemporary set films. And as usual, he proved why he's one of the greats and can do just about anything, and this is a very good way for Parenthood to recover its reputation on this list. But I did a full-length video on this one. It was one of my favorite to make last year. It's just one of those movies that makes you feel like maybe everything will be okay in the industry and in the world, that the kids might actually be all right. And it deserves 5 stars alone just for introducing us to Chase Infinity. But there you have it, my top 20 films of 2025, I guess. Again, I had such a large group of films that I really liked. Some tough decisions had to be made that I will probably regret very soon. But please let me know what your favorite films of last year were. Let me know what you're looking forward to in 2026. I hope everyone's having a wonderful new year so far, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about some new movies. This is going to be a huge year. And friendly reminder, again, since I don't shout it out super often, I do have a podcast. It's called The House of Cinema. We do episodes on new releases every single week. We have a Patreon where we talk about horror films, classics, animated films, all sorts of different stuff. So if you feel like checking that out, the links will be below. Again, thank you guys for such a great year in 2025. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.